Inspiration, the process of being mentally stimulated to get up and do something. I am CNJ and welcome to CNJ Jamaica. I told you all last week that I will be starting a series of looking on persons who can inspire us, motivate us to just get up and do something, all right? And in order to start off this series, I had to first start with myself and to tell my story. Many of you know that I started this channel during COVID, during a time where many of us were demotivated. Many of us thought it was going to be the end of us as we know it. And I said, you know what, I wanted to do something a little different from my norm. So I started this channel. But that start was because of other things that happened to me prior to COVID. And this is a story that I tell within my circle a lot. And I have spoken to the persons who are kind of involved in it. And I think they understand right now why I share the story from time to time. Because it was like a genesis. It was a new beginning for me. And it's something that got me to get up and do something different. Sometimes in our lives, we're in a rut. We keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again. And even though we're not mad, sometimes we expect different things to happen from us doing the same thing. And I was in that rut. I was in a job wherein I thought I would retire there. Many years still, yes? But I thought I would retire in that job. And it got increasingly harder to be at that job. Increasingly harder. But I was in a rut. I said this is where I was going to retire. But I am a church goer. I go to church every Sunday and I'm hoping to make it in. And I was involved in everything. In the youths, I was in the choir. I was doing all sorts of things. If they called me to be on a committee, I would say yes, send me. All right, that's like Isaiah, yes, send me. And I would be a part of many things. Went on a youth counselor at camp, all sorts of things. I was helping out with the dance group, with the choir, the youth choir, many things. So I was doing so many things, and I was called into a meeting once. And it was because I was seemingly doing many things and not getting the permission of the persons who maybe were heading these committees. Now, at the time, I thought I was doing something wonderful. I was filling a gap. I was making sure that things got done. How many of us in our lives, we are there trying to ensure that things stay a particular way, that things get done, that nothing falls behind, and we feel as if we're not being appreciated? Listen to my story, because maybe there's a reason for that. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to CNJ Jamaica. It's not only about my story. I'll be bringing in many other people's stories, not just persons from St. Thomas, but even other people in the wider Jamaica as well, and my friends abroad, all right? So let me get back to my story. So there I was, working, doing my full-time job, volunteering at the church, doing many things at the church and so on, and I thought I was doing well. And I was called into this meeting because many different individuals had an issue with how I was doing the volunteer work that I was doing. When I was called into the meeting, I felt, how dare they? You know, I am doing, I'm helping out. Why do they have a problem with this? And it must be that because they are not doing their jobs and I'm showing them up. So I kind of went in with that attitude. And I had two other persons who they would work with me at the time as well. And they were also doing the best that they could. They were helping out as well. But I think they were doing it the right way. They were doing it properly. They were getting the permissions and doing the things. Or maybe not, but I stood out and the meeting was really for me. And in the course of the meeting, I listened to everything that everybody had to say. And after being in that meeting for, I think I listened to persons tell me all the things that I was doing incorrectly, stepping on their territory and so on. And about after an hour and a half, I think, of listening to this just straight. One person finished and another person spoke and another person spoke. The tears just started to run down my face. Because it was just so overwhelming. But I didn't learn any lesson then. I just continued to listen, and then my pastor allowed me to speak, and I told them where I was coming from. And then the meeting ended, and we came to a sort of resolution. But I left that meeting kind of a little angry as to what really happened. I thought I was helping, and nobody was seeing things from my point of view. And my pastor said something in that meeting. She said, with all our good intentions, and she was speaking not just to me, but the persons who were accusing me at the time as well, that we need to be careful that we don't allow the devil into our situation. And for him to, plant certain messages in our minds and so on. I'm not quoting her word for word, but that's what I took away from that meeting. But I didn't only take that away from the meeting. I took that, wow, it was myself and 2 other persons who were doing all of this volunteer work. And I felt as if they didn't have my back. And I kind of stepped away and kind of moved away from them a little because I felt alone in the situation. Because a lot of times when we're doing things, we want others to kind of justify and to help us and to say, yes, you're not doing anything wrong, and, to be there as our cheerleaders and so on. But the difference with this situation, it was in a church situation, and they were not just looking on it just from a worldly eyes, but from a spiritual realm as well. So at this time, I understand their position now, but at that time, I never did. Remember, we're looking on inspiration. What motivates us to do something? All right? Inspiration. What it is that mentally stimulates us so that we get up and do something. And I'm telling you my story as to how I got there. When I got home, I started to think I did a little more crying as to, I thought I was doing good, I thought I was, the hardworking person that everybody should love. And they didn't appreciate or didn't see, or they had an issue with how I was doing things. And I started to say to myself, if so many persons had something to say, I need to listen. I needed to hear and not think that they ganged up on me. Because that's how I felt, I felt that they ganged up on me. And I said I needed to listen to what they had to say and not feel as if it was a gang. But that God, and for many of you may not be Christians, but I'm coming from that place. I said, God must be telling me something right now. And I sat down and I said, let me recall all the things that they said. And let me see how I can turn it around. At the time, I was getting inspired to do something. And the inspiration at that time was to, step back a little and assess yourself and what it is that you're doing. I was being mentally stimulated by God. And I stepped back. But why I'm telling you this story is because what happened in my church life showed me something in my work life. And I realized that the individuals who may have had some issues with how I was doing some things in my work life was because maybe they thought the same thing. That I was doing some things and not incorporating them or the other individuals in the decision-making process. And then I stepped back from the situation and realized all the bad things that may have been happening to me in my work situation were not only other people's doing, but I would have had a part to play in it as well. I am telling you this story as a form of inspiration right now, because there are times in our lives where we are in some bad work situations, but we don't look at ourselves to see what part am I playing in this situation. We look outside of ourselves for the individuals who may be causing certain things. I want you to think about that for a while. Because success in this life is not only how much money you make, how many cars you have, how many homes you have, how successful your children are, but it's also about how successful are you at having a okay headspace. Are you okay? Can you sit with yourself for the entire day and feel good? Or do you always have to have people around you? Are you okay to just sit in quiet and just reflect on your day, all right, and feel good about all that you did today? Are you okay? Do you have persons that you can just call on and just talk about situations, or have we alienated everybody from our lives? The thing is, inspiration for me is what pushes us to just get up and do what needs to be done. And in order for us to get up and do what needs to be done, we need to be able to handle what is happening with us presently. We need to be able to handle what is happening to us presently. Am I living my best life? What can I do to improve on what I have right now? And when I say that, I'm not talking about the job. All right? A job is a job is a job. I love YouTube because I like this creative aspect of being able to share with others some things that you have learned over the years. Not many of us have a pulpit from which to stand on and preach. And I appreciate pastors for that, because they're living their lives, but then they have to reassess themselves and still be able to go out and share with others. I appreciate teachers, because as we teach the content, we have to be looking in the eyes of all the persons before us and to see what does that person need, what does this person need besides just the content. And I'm sorry I didn't learn that earlier in my teaching life, because from a lot of the years of my teaching life, I taught the content and not the individual. There are some teachers who I really rate, and I won't call any names here, but they're not only about the content, they're about the students before them and how can I make their lives better through the content. Right now in my present job, the part I appreciate more about it is how we are making the lives of people better by building their capability in their current jobs. How we can make our country better by building the capabilities of the persons who are working in our country. There are other things about the job that I don't particularly like, persons who, but that's beside the point, because there's no perfect workplace. There's no perfect workplace. There's no perfect person. We're all going through a process. We all can be better. And I genuinely think that for most persons, they're trying their best. And that's all we can do, is to try our best in this life. What is inspiration to me? It's being in situations and being able not to be dragged down by the situation. But even though you might feel a way, to be able to express your feelings. And let me explain express for a little bit. I'm not meaning to shout and fight, no. If you're feeling something, feel it. And then after you have felt it, move on. And while you're feeling it also, be cognizant of who you may be talking to. Because we don't want to be disrespectful to anybody. But we also don't want persons to bottle things in. And because we know those things will cause diseases in our bodies. Right? Inspiration to me is what causes us, even in the midst of our problems, even in the midst of being in a terrible situation, to get up and do something. My word for this week, or my phrase for the week: find that thing that helps you to get up and do something. Find that thing that is within you. Find that thing that is around you. Find that thing that helps you to get up and do something. And I'm talking to myself as well. When we're in situations that we're not satisfied with, instead of sitting in it and just talk about it endlessly, instead of just sitting and, as we say in Jamaica, walla in it like a pig, CNJ is saying, while we're in it, get inspired to get up and do something. I am CNJ. I want to thank you for being with me this week. I know you were expecting me to be interviewing someone, but I was kind of interviewing myself. All right. Inspiration to me is what motivates us to get up and do something. What is inspiration to you? Write it in the chat. All right. Leave me a message. If there's someone you know that has a word for us in this community, send me the name. Let us talk. Like, share, and subscribe. I am CNJ, and thank you for being with me on CNJ Jamaica.